Mai te wāhingaro te tamata wairua tapuri re hau pai Māori re. Tū roko i e te pōtākiri ko te ata. Ka wheki, ka whekā ki te matahau o tū. O tū te wini o tū te wana o tū whakaputaine ki te whai au ki te au mārama ti hei mauri ora. Ko te kuputuatahi ko te wahi ki te atua nāna rā tātou i whakawhaiti mai runga i te ora me te pai. Nāna rā tātou i whakawhaiti mai runga i te reo karanga o te kaupapa o te rā. Anei, i te kuhi atu ne ki a koutou. Nau mai, piki mai kake mai. Nau mai ki Waikato tainui. Nau mai ki te kōpua mānia o kirikiri roa. Nau mai ki te kingitanga. Nau mai ki te whare wānanga o Waikato. Nau mai i mua i te auraro o ngā rangatira o tēnei whare. Arara, ko te tumuaki tērā, a Neo Quigley, me ona kai arahi, me ona kai mahi o te whare wānanga o Waikato. Hare mai, hare mai, hare mai. Hare mai me o tātou tini aitua, me o tātou tini mate. E ai te kōrero i kure i tangi he mai aroha ki a rātou kumenea ki te pō. Nō reira ngā mūrau o te tini ngā wenarau o te mano, haere atura, oki, oe mai. E hoki mai ki a tātou e tau nei raro i ngā mana ki tā ngā tērunga rawa. Tēnā koutou, huri noa, tēnā tātou katoa.
Naswaidath, kia ora, good evening everybody. Thank you very much, Taki, for your warm Māori welcome and the karakia to officially open the event. My name is Riordan. I'm a Vice-Chancellor at Cardiff. I look after international and student recruitment and also look after the College of Physical Sciences and Engineering, which all you in the room know, our colleagues across don't. It is my very great pleasure to welcome you all to the signing ceremony of the strategic partnership between Cardiff University and the University of Waikato. Here in Cardiff, the event will be mostly in person, with some colleagues joining online. In Hamilton, on the other side, and indeed across New Zealand, colleagues are joining us virtually due to the COVID restrictions currently still in place all across the country. For those of you who are not here in the council chamber, you can submit questions about the partnership on Slido. The details on how to do this are on the YouTube landing page. The partnership teams at both universities will keep track of your questions and comments. And it doesn't say this in my note, but they'll probably also get back to you and answer your comments or pass on anything that you would like us to know. I should also let you know that this evening's event is actually recorded and made available to colleagues in the coming days. So if you liked it that much that you would like to see it again, is your chance. If you have a colleague who hasn't been here, you can pass the link on, please. I had the privilege to visit Hamilton in February 2020. Our visit to Waikato made it clear to all involved on both sides that there were many shared interests and aims across all areas, especially in education, not surprisingly, mobility for both students and staff, and in research. In addition, we identified opportunities for our professional services staff. We saw opportunities in transnational education and, of course, in cultural exchange. Very, very important to both sides. Our senior teams immediately gelled and worked extremely well together, and we achieved a remarkable amount, even though I don't think I was there for even a full 2 days. Only weeks after we returned from New Zealand, the UK went into its first lockdown. Little did we know then that 20 months later, we would still be experiencing varying levels of COVID restrictions across both Wales and New Zealand, hence the hybrid meeting today. Nonetheless, I've been extremely impressed what one can achieve remotely and how our partnership has developed virtually through many late night and/or morning Zoom meetings. This is testament, I believe, to the commitment, to the engagement, and really to the enthusiasm of colleagues on both sides. There are already, even though nobody's met since then, several demonstrable successes through external funding, to joint seminars, workshops, and the co-development of teaching and educational plans. All happened without people physically meeting. That bodes really well for when we come back to a more normal environment. In a world clouded by the COVID pandemic, strong, mutually beneficial international partnerships are even more important than in normal times. Global issues, we all agree, we know, we've just been reminded by COP26, require global solutions. The Cardiff Waikato partnership, I'm sure, will help us find such solutions by working together. I will now give the floor to my colleague, Professor Damien Walford-Davies. Damien is the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Cardiff University, but he's also renowned as a poet, and he's written a special poem to mark the launch of our strategic partnership. We thank you for that, Damien, and over to you.
Thank you, diolch. Well, heraldry might sound like a less than promising, or indeed less than progressive subject for a poem to mark the signing of a strategic partnership. But when I was asked for a poem in Welsh to mark the occasion by the Senior University Dean for International Partnerships, Professor Ken Hamilton, such an appropriate surname, you couldn't make it up for this partnership, that's what I actually found myself writing about, the two shields of our two institutions. Now, such formal symbols can, as you might readily agree with me, easily oversimplify institutions and be unrepresentative of the range of lived lives that we support. And yet, one hopes that they can also signify for all and signify anew. And what I saw in pondering the two coats of arms was in the end the similarity, uncannily, between them, where at first there seemed to be two hemispheres worth of only difference and separation. So the poem tries to be a unifying, revivifying blazon. And forgive my being an anorak, but the blazon, that's the technical word for a verbal description of a coat of arms, a blazon. And so having reflected on the ways in which the Waikato coat of arms, with its open book, the 4 stars of the Southern Cross, the motto for the people, and its native fern frond pattern around the sides, how that sings to our own Cardiff icon, with its open book, its crescent moon, and its 8-petaled ring, both with, uncannily, exactly the same tinctures of gold and black, and a red that threatens to become burgundy. After doing that, the poem tries to collapse the two into one composite field in which our cultures and our native languages, y Gymraeg and Te Reo, can come together in both unexpected and expected ways. Bîm yn cymharu ein harfbeisiau, herodraeth 2 hemisffer, a darganfod ar dariannau debygrwydd y tu hwnt i'r disgwyl. Rhannon yr un dri lliw. Llyfrau hefyd ar agor ar ei hanner, yr arwyddeiriau hwythau, Citgord, Cote Tangatan, lled gynghanedd. Cilgant lleiad a phedau'r seren Croeso yn eiro'r un ffurfafen. Ffrondau rhedyn coch y pitawn rhannu pridd a'n hoctofoil. Asiwn, felly, hen eiconau'n blesawnt ffres, a biwiocau hen heraldry, bydd ein ser a'n blodau, rhoi sêl newydd ar hen symbolau. Thank you.
Oh, Damien, thank you very much, Damien. I have checked with him. For those of you who don't understand, and there will be a translation available. He will also give the original out so everybody can study it again and enjoy the poetry. I always think when you listen to Welsh poetry, you don't actually need to understand. I don't, but you can see you can hear it's poetic. It sings. It's a fantastic language which I'm yet to learn. I'm sorry about that. But I would now like to move on and invite our Vice-Chancellor and President, Professor Colin Riordan, to come up and give us his thoughts on the partnership. Colin, over to you.
Diolch, Rudy. Noswaith dda yn Caerdydd, bore da yn Seland Newydd, a chroeso I bawb. Kia ora to our friends and colleagues in Hamilton, and welcome Croeso to everybody. And a special Croeso to our guests here in Cardiff, especially Jeremy Miles, the Minister for Education, who we are expecting, I think, and Shannon Austin, Deputy High Commissioner for New Zealand to the UK. So thank you very much indeed for making the time to be with us, as well as colleagues from both Education New Zealand and Waikato, University of Waikato itself. And of course, a special thank you to our First Minister, Mark Drakeford, for his message of support that we'll be hearing shortly and seeing. Diolch yn fawr iawn. All in all then, a very warm welcome to everyone joining virtually and globally to share in our educational and cultural celebration. So it is a pity that we can't all be here together, but I think we are really doing very much the next best thing, where some of us can be together and other people are able to join. Our colleagues and friends from across the world are able to join virtually in this hybrid event. And I think that kind of stands for everything we've learned over the past 18 months or so, because despite all the restrictions we faced and that we still do face, I'm amazed by how much the partnership has developed already through virtual means, and it's possible that it's developed even quicker and in a more in a deeper way than it might have done had we not had these opportunities that we've all learned. So it really is a blueprint for the art of the possible and for the new ways that we might engage in the future post-pandemic world. So I'm delighted that we have the opportunity today to sign the strategic partnership with Waikato. I remember the occasion where my colleague Neil Quigley visited and we signed an MOU, and it's great that we're at this stage now. And I very much feel that the partnership has opportunities, not just for our institutions, but also for our cities and our respective countries. And there are, as we know, many commonalities between Wales and New Zealand, geographic, linguistic and cultural, that extend beyond an obvious shared love for rugby. And I'm quite sure that the partnership will lead to wider research, education and civic benefits for both Wales and New Zealand. So it will go beyond our institutions, of course. I've been very struck by the support that the partnership has already encountered. It was a pleasure to welcome His Excellency Bede Corrie, High Commissioner of New Zealand, to the university recently to discuss the close ties between Wales and New Zealand, and Cardiff and Waikato in particular. I'd also like to extend my warmest thanks to Minister Sior, Minister for Pacific Peoples and Minister for Courts, and Associate Minister of Education and the Foreign Affairs Pacific Peoples for the support that we've received. We're grateful also to Grant McPherson, Chief Executive of Education New Zealand, and his colleagues. And I want to thank Her Excellency Laura Clark, High Commissioner of the United Kingdom to New Zealand, for her encouragement and support. Now, in terms of the partnership itself, language and culture are a key area of interest we share, of course, and Damien and Rudy have already referred to that, and I'm sure we'll hear more about it. And I'm sure that we'll be able to exchange insights that will be unique to a partnership such as this, particularly the bilinguality and the other particular cultural particularities that we do share in our different ways. Other critical elements address some of the partnership, address some of the most important global challenges, such clearly as climate change, sustainability and wider environmental issues, as well as critical subject areas that might go some way to helping us address these challenges like AI, data science and robotics, and other areas. It's great that the partnership has already clocked up a range of early successes. That's what you always want to see, including external grant funding, a joint seminar series, joint papers, reciprocal online events and conferences, as well as the development of professional services links and joint international initiatives. I'm also pleased to note that our students are already connected, and it's lovely to see Hannah Doe, President of our Students' Union, with us here tonight. It's an auspicious time for student interaction and mobility, both virtually and physically, which I know are extremely welcome to our students after all that's happened, despite the time differences and distances involved in this partnership. The Welsh Government's International Learning Exchange Programme is a visionary, innovative, progressive and internationally outward-looking programme that's designed to facilitate international mobility right across the education system and across the world. And that's really a remarkable thing that we have to thank our government for, and welcome, Minister. Thank you for being with us this evening. So that's just one way that we can foster student and staff mobility. Both institutions have also committed to support the mobility of all staff, both academic and professional services. And I believe that Neil will say more about that in due course as well. Cardiff and Waikato are global outward-looking universities that take seriously the advantages of international cooperation and the importance of international exchange and the importance of international understanding have never been so apparent in our lifetimes as now. So I look forward to seeing our strategic partnership flourish and benefit the students and staff of both institutions and our populations beyond that. I look forward to welcoming you, Neil, and Alistair and colleagues to Cardiff again soon, and, God willing, to being able to visit Hamilton when regulations allow. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Nā mihi. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Colin. Kia ora, Croeso, and welcome to our distinguished guests and colleagues joining us today. My name is Alistair Jones, and I'm the Senior Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the University of Waikato. A special kia ora to all those who are taking part in this live stream. Conducting events online over the last 2 years has been a new way of doing things, and thank you to all those agreeing to be part of this virtually today. I'd like to echo the comments made by Colin and acknowledge the wider educational interest this partnership has already created in the work that it has put on. A special thank you to Minister Seal, who has provided the pre-recorded message in support of this government and this initiative, and to Grant McPherson, Chief Executive of Education New Zealand, who is joining us virtually from Wellington. While it's unfortunate we can't all be together today, I did enjoy my time the last time I was in Cardiff in 2019, and I was pleased to be able to host the delegation from Cardiff on our campus in February 2020. I'd like to acknowledge Bronwyn Shanks, Education New Zealand Senior Advisor, Europe and the Middle East, who is attending today's event in person, along with University of Waikato staff members, Dr. Joe Burton, Senior Lecturer in Political Science and Public Policy Programme, who is currently at Marie Curie Fellowship in Brussels, and Richard Wicks, our Regional Manager for Africa, Middle East and Europe from our International Office. It's great we've been able to have some of our Waikato staff there in person today. This partnership really does present a unique opportunity for our researchers, our academic staff, our professional teams, and not least our students. I'd also like to acknowledge our Chancellor, Sadnan Sachinant, who is attending today. I'd now like to invite Professor Neil Quigley, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Waikato, to say a few words.
Croeso. Good evening and welcome everyone. And in the Māori language, tēnā koutou e tēnei ahi ahi pō, parina nau mai haere mai rā koutou katoa. Thank you, Alistair and Colin, for your words. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the distinguished guests, as others have as well. The First Minister of Wales, Right Honourable Mark Drakeford, Jeremy Miles, Minister for Education and Welsh Language, as well as the High Commissioner to New Zealand, Her Excellency Laura Clark, and Deputy High Commissioner of New Zealand to the UK, Shannon Austin. My warmest acknowledgements also to all of our colleagues from the University of Waikato who have joined us, and from Cardiff University. I'm particularly pleased to hear, though I can't see him, that Joe Burton's in the room in Cardiff. He's a University of Waikato staff member, but seems to spend his time travelling the world. We haven't seen him for some time in Hamilton. Greetings, Joe. We planned to have this event in person, of course, but the pandemic had other plans for us. Still, it is amazing what can be achieved by Zoom calls. And of course, we have the added advantage, which you can't see on Zoom, that we're all working at home in our offices in our slippers. We would not have wanted the pandemic to get in the way of today's events, because since the very first contact about this relationship between the two universities in 2019, the relationship has very quickly gone from strength to strength. I think Colin will agree with me that many university agreements get signed and actually turn into very little subsequently. The great opportunity that we have here is to show that this relationship is different, and already we are well on the path to doing that. The relationship covers research, teaching, and professional services, as well as student exchange opportunities. We've already had 15 joint seminars in artificial intelligence and robotics, had joint research papers issued by members of our two universities' staff. And we've also had a very successful collaboration established with Andy Wakeman and Nigel Richards at Cardiff, by Adele Williamson, Craig Carey and Vic Arcus from Waikato, who've been successful in obtaining a research grant for their research, which helps us better understand the genomics of microbes that live in our harshest environments, and the potential to harness the power of microorganisms to clean pollutants from water, soil, and air. But the value of this partnership is not just for our universities and our staff and students. The communities that we serve will also benefit from our collaborative work and our attention to the global challenges that we face. We have been told at the COP26 conference in Glasgow that the clock is ticking down on climate change. But of course, that makes it all the more urgent that institutions like ours cooperate on issues relating to remission, mitigation, and management of climate effects. Especially, it's important that we can do that in the low emission context of a Zoom conference and Zoom interaction for research. The two universities have also signalled their commitment to this partnership by jointly funding and launching today a New Zealand $240,000 seed fund for research. Both universities have contributed funding to this seed fund, and in terms of seed funding, it represents a significant investment for us. We know that major research funding schemes require a lot of work and a lot of preparation, and some of the research already needs to be underway to ensure success in those applications. Seed funding is designed to do that. It's also designed to help build collaboration in teaching initiatives, and we hope that innovation and teaching and learning will be a key part of what is funded by this seed fund. We're also, of course, interested in opportunities for professional services staff across the two universities to engage in thinking about ways to manage our institutions better. Finally, I'd just like to mention the impact this partnership will have on our students. While New Zealand's borders currently remain largely closed, we know that this international partnership will be key in enhancing our student experiences, from student exchanges, opportunities to take undergraduate and postgraduate courses at the two universities. Our New Zealand students are great travellers, and so we're sure that once the borders open again, they'll take full advantage of the opportunities that our partnership provides to spend time in Cardiff and to obtain the benefits that study at a great university like Cardiff University can offer. And I close by thanking all of you most warmly for your attendance at this event this morning in New Zealand, this evening in Wales. And to our colleagues from Cardiff, it's a privilege to have the opportunity to join in this strategic partnership with you. The Māori people have a wonderful way of providing acknowledgements to friends who are viewed most warmly. Ngā mihi a te ngākau kia koutou katoa. Literally, a greeting of the heart to all of you. Thank you, and diolch yn fawr.
Next, we will hear a pre-recorded message from the Right Honourable Mark Drakeford, First Minister of Wales. Mark was, as you will know, a professor at Cardiff University until not so long ago. In May 2011, he became the Senate member for Cardiff West, which is just to my left here, a constituency for colleagues very close to us. Since December 2018, Mark has served as the First Minister of Wales. Mark is a very strong advocate of the international agenda and a strong supporter of the Cardiff-Waikato partnership. It's perhaps not a coincidence that the first international strategy for Wales was published a year after he became the First Minister for Wales. He very much regrets that he cannot be with us tonight, but has recorded a message which we will now play to you.
Hello, Shemai, Kea Ora. My name is Mark Drakeford and I'm the First Minister of Wales. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish the partnership that is being launched today between Cardiff University and the University of Waikato every success. In a post-Brexit world, Wales is determined to go on being an outward-looking nation, working with our friends further afield, reaffirming and strengthening our established relationships. This partnership is just one example of how, despite the current restrictions the COVID pandemic has created, we can achieve all of that. Wales and New Zealand have many links: the promotion of our native languages, our cultures, and of course, our mutual love of rugby. Indeed, some of New Zealand's greatest exports to Wales are its rugby coaches. Graham Henry and Steve Hansen produced perhaps the most famous New Zealander who successfully coached Wales, Warren Gatland, himself a son of Waikato. I look forward to seeing this partnership in all its dimensions develop and grow to focus on those areas that are of both national and global importance: language, culture and arts, artificial intelligence, data, science and robotics, the environment, climate change and sustainability. Let me wish this event and the strategic partnership every success. I look forward to hearing about its progress in the future. Diolch yn fawr, Kaya Ora, thank you all.
Thank you, Mark. I was wondering who was going to bring up our rugby exports, as it's been mentioned a few times since we've been meeting. But more importantly, how we build this partnership to have real global impact into the future. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, the Honourable Apito William Seal. Minister Seal was elected Minister of Parliament in 2008, and he holds a number of portfolios, as we've heard, including Associate Minister for Foreign Affairs and Associate Minister for Education, Pacific Peoples. And he's kindly sent a message of support from the New Zealand government for our partnership.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. In the language of the Indigenous peoples of Aotearoa, New Zealand, I greet and acknowledge you once, twice, and thrice. And in my own mother tongue, I greet you with talofa lava, māloso fuamanuia, warm Pacific greetings to you and each of you on this platform. I also want to say how I love your Welsh saying, Kenero hip bayeth, Kenero hip galon. A nation without a language is a nation without a heart, and I absolutely embrace the power of that statement of yours. Good morning and good evening to those of you joining this event from Cardiff, and thank you for the introduction to Professor Jones. I'm very pleased to be here today on behalf of the Honourable Chris Hipkins, our Minister for Education. As Minister Hipkins is also the Minister for our COVID-19 response, he's unable to be here today, but sends his best wishes for the event. I'm happy to be able to acknowledge and celebrate the launch of the strategic partnership between Cardiff University and the University of Waikato. As the Minister for Pacific Peoples and Associate Minister of Education and Associate Minister of Foreign Affairs, I can clearly see the wider education benefits this partnership will provide for staff and students at both universities, as well as the importance of strong collaboration on global issues, including climate change and the revitalization of language and culture. These are matters which are dear to my own heart and are focus for me in my ministerial portfolios. I note this partnership is already enriching staff experience and research performance. It's expected to deliver opportunities in language and culture, with the Welsh language considered a model for language revitalisation worldwide. I understand that Wales has some of the strongest legislation in the world to protect and promote the Welsh language. Here in Aotearoa, as a government, we are committed to the revitalisation of Te Reo Māori, the language of the Indigenous peoples of Aotearoa. Also, as my Ministry for Pacific Peoples is also developing a strategy to increase the use of and revitalise the diverse Pacific languages of the peoples of Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm excited and look forward to hearing more about this important work supported by this partnership. Once again, on behalf of the New Zealand Government, I would like to thank the Right Honourable Mark Drakeford, First Minister of Wales, for this video message, and I look forward to hearing from Jerry Miles, the Minister for Education and the Welsh language. Kia kaha is what we say in Aotearoa, New Zealand, meaning stay strong, or whamalosi in my own language, and stay safe.
Thank you very much, Minister, for this address. Our next speaker is Jeremy Miles, the Welsh Minister for Education and Welsh Language. Jeremy was elected to the National Assembly for Wales for the Neath constituency in May 2016. In November 17, he was appointed Counsel General, and in December 2018, Counsel General and Minister for Brexit. In May this year, Jeremy was appointed to his current portfolio. At Cardiff, we're absolutely delighted to be working closely with Jeremy in several areas of his portfolio as Minister for Education and Welsh Language. I would just like to take the opportunity to make a special mention of the Welsh Government's mobility programme, the International Learning Exchange Programme, which Cardiff University run on behalf of the Welsh Government through ILAP Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of the university. Colin has mentioned this before. ILAP was set up by Welsh Government in response to Brexit and the UK Government's decision not to associate with the EU's Erasmus programme post-Brexit. ILAP provides wonderful opportunities which the whole sector will appreciate as we develop this. It provides inward and outward mobility opportunities across the whole Welsh sector, not just higher education. At Cardiff, we're absolutely delighted to be closely involved in the design and delivery of the programme. We see the enormous potential of ILAP to support the international agenda of Welsh Government. ILAP will also support many global interactions, also for our university, such as partnerships between the two universities that we're celebrating today. Without much further ado, Jeremy, can I ask you to take over from me? Thank you.
Bore da at Mae'r. Good morning to those joining from New Zealand, and noswaith pob Mae'r, good evening to everybody here in Wales. Mae'n bleser mawr cael bod yma heno ar yr achlysur pwysig hwn. It's a great pleasure to be here this evening for the official launch of the strategic partnership agreement between Cardiff University and the University of Waikato. And it's inspiring to see that despite the issues that the COVID pandemic has been presenting to us all, to the world, that collaborations between academic institutions like this are able to flourish even in that context. And I think it's worth noting that the Cardiff-Waikato relationship developed as a result of a very successful student exchange agreement, which saw students from Cardiff University travelling and studying in Waikato, and students from Waikato travelling and studying here in Cardiff. And that exchange programme gave the students an opportunity to explore and develop an interest in each other's countries. And enhancing student mobility obviously is a key priority for the strategic partnership. Pleased to hear that Cardiff University is the most popular outward destination for Waikato students. However, as interest has exceeded the current limit, the new agreement will increase the number of students from the University of Waikato that will have the opportunity to both study in Cardiff University and, I hope, explore the wonders that Wales has to offer. As both Colin and Rudy mentioned, the Welsh Government's International Learning Exchange Programme will offer even further opportunities for growth in this area. And I'd like to thank the university for the work that you are doing to take the initiative forward on our behalf. It's a very important new programme, and it'll provide a wide range of international mobility experiences for learners and for staff across the whole education sector in Wales, as Rudy was saying, and we hope that that'll start in the academic year 22-23. A fundamental aspect of the programme, and one which has been very important to us from the start, is the principle of reciprocity. And so I'm sure that students from the University of Waikato will be able to take advantage of this programme in the future. And another aspect of the strategic partnership agreement, which is being launched this evening, that's of particular interest to me in my role as the Minister for the Welsh Language, is the promotion and study of our native languages. Both Wales and New Zealand have taken great steps to promote our native languages, and this is an area where I think we can see a lot more opportunity for synergies and collaboration in the future. Here in Wales, our language has shaped our culture, our heritage, and given the Welsh people, I think, a unique identity. We are a bilingual nation with Welsh and English having equal status in our law here in Wales. We have our own Commissioner for the Welsh language, whose principal aim is to promote and facilitate the use of the Welsh language, ensuring that Welsh should not be treated less favourably than the English language in Wales, and that people in Wales should be able to live their lives fully through the medium of Welsh if they choose to do so. I know that New Zealand's Māori Language Commission has a leading role as well in coordinating the promotion of the Māori language across New Zealand, and I'm sure there are many synergies in the respective in the work of the respective language commissioners and many areas where they can learn from each other very productively. There are also many other areas of synergy between Wales and New Zealand, our cultures, our histories, and as the First Minister was saying, let's not forget our shared passion for rugby, and I should congratulate the All Blacks for their recent result. It didn't quite go our way, but I'd like to congratulate them on their victory nevertheless. There may be some people in Wales who haven't yet heard of the University of Waikato, but they will have heard of one of Warren Gatland and, of course, Jacinda Ardern, who is one of the leading alumni of the university. And we, in my party here in Wales, follow the work of her government with great interest in New Zealand. I hope that the strategic partnership that is being signed today will be a catalyst to increase and strengthen the collaboration and most of all the friendship between our two nations. Felly, diolch yn fawr, kia ora, thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. It's great to hear about the Welsh initiatives in student mobility, and that'll strengthen through our partnership and the culture and language elements that will be delivered. The next speaker I'd like to introduce is Grant McPherson, Chief Executive of Education New Zealand. Grant leads Education New Zealand in taking New Zealand's education experiences to the world, creating enduring economic, social and cultural benefits for all. In response to COVID-19, Grant chairs the International Education Chief Executives Group. Together with peers from other government agencies with interests in international education, the group helps drive the government's recovery plan for our sector. As an international student himself, he also lives and breathes international education. He has also previously held senior roles at New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. Welcome, Grant.
Kia ora, Alistair. Ina mana, ina reo, ina iwi, e ro rangatira mā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Shumai. Distinguished guests, faculty members of the University of Waikato and Cardiff University, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and good evening. It's a great pleasure to take part today in the launch of this strategic partnership between these distinguished universities. One of Education New Zealand's strategic objectives is to ensure that New Zealand makes the best possible use of its international education expertise to improve education outcomes, establish partnerships, and grow global connections. Never has this been more important than in the last 2 years. COVID-19 has changed everything. Border closures brought a sudden stop to international travel and face-to-face meetings, reminding us all how critical global connections are in international education and research cooperation. University partnerships are key building blocks to international engagement in higher education, sharing the best academic and research practices and helping to develop global citizens through mobility of students and scholars is a proven method of delivering mutual benefits to all parties. It has also underpinned the growth of UK students studying in New Zealand, making them the largest group studying with New Zealand from Europe. To our friends at Cardiff University, we understand you have been very discerning in your choice of global relationships, and it is exciting to see the University of Waikato join this group as one of your strategic partners. The hybrid approach to this occasion, blending in-person events with a virtual connection between Cardiff and Hamilton, is a sign of our times. It's also a fitting reflection of the innovative collaboration and cooperation your two institutions have committed to. The partnership we are celebrating today has arisen from successful cooperation in the areas of artificial intelligence, biochemistry, and environmental law. It's from this base it has grown to encompass a range of disciplines from climate change, engineering, agri-tech, and data science, all the way through to management, psychology, education, and nursing. The interdisciplinary approach you are proposing to take across a range of institutional, staff, and student activities perfectly matches the challenges and opportunities ahead. We are now looking to build upon your example of strategic partnership and explore future cooperation with UK universities under the new Welsh Government International Learning Exchange Programme and the Touring Scheme. But there is another dimension to international education that we at Education New Zealand are very mindful of, and that is the power of cultural exchange and the social element that comes with international partners such as these. Anyone who has lived, studied, or worked in another country understands how the experience changes them, not just while they are there, but for the rest of their lives. So partnerships such as this not only offer academic opportunities, they offer the potential of a new and different future delivered through new thinking and new technology. As has been mentioned, Wales and New Zealand share many similarities. We share stunning scenery and a welcoming and friendly people. Also, we each have an Indigenous language that we are promoting and preserving to enhance our cultural identity. This is the backdrop for today's launch of this special partnership. Two forward-looking universities with from two similar but different countries, seeking out tomorrow's leaders to offer them a future they might not otherwise have had. It is a great occasion and a cause for celebration, and I offer Education New Zealand's congratulations to all involved. Kia ora.
We move on to a message from Her Excellency Laura Clark, High Commissioner of the United Kingdom to New Zealand. Laura Clark took up her role as High Commissioner to New Zealand and Governor of the Pitcairn Island in January 2018 and was High Commissioner to Samoa from March 18 to December 19. I'm sure I speak for all at Cardiff when I say how delighted we are that the High Commissioner has put a message of support together for us to hear and listen to hear and watch tonight. I very much hope that we can meet in person in the not too distant future with Laura. We'll all be very pleased if we can see her here at Cardiff soon.
Good morning, Borada, Morena koutou katoa. Thank you very much for that introduction, Professor. It gives me great pleasure to send this message today, acknowledging the collaborative partnership which has been formed between the University of Waikato and Cardiff University in Wales. It is wonderful to see our two countries, which already have a strong collaborative history, forging partnerships that will lead to interesting opportunities in both world-leading research and the development of our future leaders. The United Kingdom is already regarded worldwide for its research and innovation, and much of this comes down to collaborative partnerships such as this one. I'm also particularly excited to see what both universities can learn from each other in terms of language revitalisation of Te Reo Māori and Welsh. Perhaps most importantly, partnerships such as this provide a platform for a collective innovation and learning in a world where global challenges cannot be solved by one country in isolation. Solutions to sustainability, climate change, and how we move forward in a world with COVID-19 are some of the biggest questions we face. We know New Zealand has already proven itself a key innovator in these areas, so it'll be interesting to see what can be achieved. As the world changes and our economies change, we are also working increasingly in the digital world. Developments in artificial intelligence and our digital economy are also becoming more important than ever. To that end, I'm pleased to hear that webinars on topics such as AI and robotics are already being delivered in an environment of mutual learning. The way we compare notes and learn from each other will be key to solving both the global questions we face and harnessing our collective expertise to make sure any advancements are made available for the benefit of all. So a huge congratulations on all your good work to date, and I look forward to seeing the positive outcomes from this relationship in years to come. Noho ora mai.
Thank you, Laura. It's now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Shannon Austin, Deputy High Commissioner of New Zealand to the United Kingdom. It's great that Shannon is able to be in Cardiff today. and I understand her attendance also follows a recent meeting in Cardiff between the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Colin Riordan, and his colleagues, and the New Zealand High Commissioner, B. Koro. Shannon has been the Deputy High Commissioner since November last year. Prior to her current role, she held numerous positions for the New Zealand Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, including postings in Europe, Bangkok, and Kuala Lumpur. Welcome, Shannon.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou katoa, noswaitha, good evening and greetings to you all. I think Minister CEO Grant McPherson and Professor Quigley have very clearly outlined the value of this partnership to education and research links between our two countries and to the relationship more broadly from a New Zealand perspective. I did, though, want to say that listening to their words and to the words of Ministers Drakeford and Miles and Professor Riordan, I was reminded of my favourite whakatauki Māori proverb. Aha koe he iti, he pounamu. It is small, but it is a treasure. Notwithstanding the 75,000 people, including the High Commissioner and half the staff of the High Commission, who filled the stadium in Cardiff last week to watch the rugby, neither Kumare Wales nor Aotearoa New Zealand could be described as large, but our relationship is long-standing, it is close, and like Pounamu, it is deeply valued. Our people-to-people links, particularly through education, are at the heart of it. This strategic partnership deepens and extends those historic links, but also acknowledges that ours is an evolving and dynamic relationship, and that we can be partners in new and exciting areas which others have mentioned: artificial intelligence and data science, robotics, agri-tech, and something called mining extremophile genomes for synthetic biology, which I think might have been what Professor Quigley was talking about, but is something I probably need some of those in the room to help me understand a bit more. So this strategic partnership, while perhaps not large on a global scale, is indeed a treasure. I wanted to particularly acknowledge, as others have, that language and culture is one of the areas of focus for the partnership. As you will have heard from Minister CEO, expanding opportunities for Māori is a priority for the New Zealand Government and the High Commission. And is one of the reasons why we are so pleased that a chapter on Indigenous issues will be included in the upcoming free trade agreement between Aotearoa New Zealand and the UK, along with chapters in other groundbreaking areas such as gender, digital, and the environment. Consistent with what you have agreed today, or are about to agree today, the free trade agreement will be an opportunity to both support our economy's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, but also to trade back better by expanding opportunities, particularly for those who've not traditionally benefited from free trade agreements. And our people-to-people links that I noted earlier at the heart of the relationship have not been forgotten. Alongside the agreement in principle, the UK and New Zealand have agreed to work together to extend and improve our current youth mobility or working holiday scheme arrangements. These changes will improve the access that young UK citizens and New Zealanders will have in years to come to live and work in each other's countries, which, as others have noted, tends to lead to a lifetime relationship with the other country, including through study and research. So thank you for inviting me to be part of this wonderful event to celebrate this exciting and valuable partnership. And be assured that the New Zealand High Commission stands ready to support your important kaupapa and mahi. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Thank you very much, Shannon. Looking around the room, we could almost forget that really students are at the heart of every university. And I'm particularly pleased, like Colin just mentioned, that Hannah Doe has joined us tonight. She's the president of our student union since July, I think. And indeed, COVID makes everything different. This is the first time we meet in person. And I think that's true for many of us. To just celebrate the students, we have two pre-recorded messages from students. First, we have a message from Harvey Griffiths, a Cardiff student who has spent some time in Waikato, which will be followed by a message from Katie Drennan, a student from Waikato who has spent time with us here at Cardiff.
Kia ora, I'm Harvey Griffiths and I studied at Cardiff University and went exchange to Waikato University on New Zealand's North Island. At Cardiff I studied ancient history and archaeology, while at Waikato I had the opportunity to study a plethora of modules from different degree disciplines, such as politics modules, philosophy, history, cultural anthropology and Maori mythology. A main factor in my decision to go abroad was to experience something completely new, and that's definitely what I got with the experience. I got to live with people from wide cultural backgrounds, with different international students who I now call my good friends. It's something I would definitely recommend. If an exchange is something you're considering, the first thing I'd say is to do your own research. It may seem daunting at the start to move away from everyone you know to a foreign place, but the more research you do and the more familiar you get with that place you may be going to, the less of a daunting task it is. For me, I spoke to previous students who'd been on exchange and started to look around the place to know what the weather would be like, what I'd be able to do, and the things that people do over there for fun. Luckily, New Zealand had rugby and pubs, so I was happy. One of the best things about Waikato University is the Study Abroad Network, a student-led organisation which incorporates international students for meetings on campus, trips around New Zealand's North Island, and fun events such as sporting activities for everyone to meet up and get to know each other. And it was at one of these events which I got to meet someone in the university rugby team who invited me down for a training session where I got to meet the Stags. During the semester break, I went down south and worked on a farm in Rakaia to really experience that Kiwi way of life. And this has been a great talking point to employers, as well as the whole year abroad experience itself, something they're interested in, and it's helped me during the application stages. My time abroad has had a profound influence on me as an individual. I gained a new level of independence and got to meet loads of great people who I'm still in touch with to this day, and we're planning to meet up with in the future.
Hi, my name is Katie and I was a student at the University of Waikato and I went on an exchange in January 2020. I studied a Bachelor of Communications and was lucky enough to be able to study all elective papers at Cardiff University. I decided to go to Cardiff because my family originates from the UK and I'd always wanted to be able to visit. I know England's not overly different to New Zealand, so I hoped I'd get a little bit more of a culture shock in Wales because of the different language. I loved being at Cardiff because all of the students get really involved in events. I became a part of the Wine and Cheese Society there, which actually helped introduce me to local students, as most of the people I'd met prior to that were all exchange students. Doing the exchange really influenced my life and career as I was able to immerse myself into a new lifestyle independently. This helped me to gain further communication and life skills that I don't think I would have got from my degree alone. I've also made lifelong friends from all over the world who I really can't wait to see again as soon as I can. If you're considering going on an exchange to Cardiff, just do it. Both Cardiff and Waikato were really supportive. They gave me loads of support. I never felt like I had no idea what I was doing. Although my trip was cut a little bit short, I still had the most fulfilling experience and I really wish I could do it all over again.
Great, we're almost done. We're coming to the last part, the formal part. Before we move on to this, can I just take the opportunity to speak to thank all those who have contributed to this evening for the talks, for the videos, and really to make it clear that we already have a really fruitful interaction, which will be formally signed today in the signing of the partnership. We will not only sign the strategic partnership tonight between Cardiff University and the University of Waikato, we will also sign a renewal of our very successful student exchange agreement. We just saw two fantastic examples of this, and this new agreement will build on what we have already achieved through physical and virtual mobility over the last years. This is probably, I'm not sure, this may well be a world record event in the sense that normally I would ask the two signatories to join each other at the desk. They will join their respective desk at, I looked this up, but I rounded it up, 11,500 miles apart, or even more impressive in metric numbers, which is almost 20,000 kilometers. So Neil and Colin, can I ask you to go to your respective desks and sign the exchange agreements and the strategic partnership? I did it, sorry.
I need to hold it up to prove that I did it.
Ngā mihi nui. Thank you all for being here today, and it's wonderful that we have now signed the strategic partnership. We've also heard some amazing speakers from both inside and outside our universities, as well as the wider government sphere. This partnership has the potential far beyond the boundaries of our respective universities. From revitalising our language to helping solve some of the global problems and challenges that we currently face. It's a partnership that offers enriching experiences for our researchers, students, and professional staff we might be able to achieve together. In that vein, we'll be running more events in coming months, and I encourage you all to get involved. Think about what you can do in your area of expertise to foster new collaborative opportunities. If you have any questions or need any further information, contact Anne Morgan or Kath Battersby in our respective international offices, who have worked incredibly hard to get us to this point today. As has been mentioned, the world we now operate means that things are never quite static. This partnership, though, provides a platform for our collective innovation, and the possibilities are only limited by what we put into them. For the final part of our event today, we'll hear from Haere playing the harp, the national instrument of Wales, and then Koro Taki Turner will conclude our event with a karakia. Noho oro mai, hual whao, goodbye, and thank you very much.
Rei rei pāi te ariki e te atua. Nei mātou o pononga. E whakauke atu nei te koro ai mana ki uhia hio e koe ngai tō mātou ki ingi. Rei kia tau kia tātou te whai o tō tātou arika i hukraiti me te aroha te atua. Me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu. Ake. Amen.